What if I told you that a single penny, yes, a 1-cent coin you could still find in loose change, has sent collectors into a frenzy for decades, sparked federal investigations, and sold for life-changing money? And no, I'm not talking about a gold coin. I'm talking about a 1969 Lincoln cent, but here's where the story gets interesting, because when it comes to the 1969 D-Mint Mark Lincoln cent, there's truth, there's hype, and then there are the hidden details that most people completely miss, and those details can mean the difference between 1 cent and thousands of dollars. So before you dismiss the pennies in your drawer, listen carefully. This story begins in 1969. America was in turmoil: Vietnam, civil unrest, moon missions. Meanwhile, at the Denver Mint, millions of Lincoln cents were being struck with a small D-Mint mark beneath the date. Most of them were ordinary. In fact, over 563 million 1969 D-cents were produced. On the surface, nothing special. Just another copper coin passing through American hands, but beneath that ordinary exterior, a few extraordinary anomalies were born, and those anomalies are what keep collectors awake at night. Now let's address the elephant in the room. You may have heard whispers that a 1969 penny sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. You may even have heard numbers like $844,000, or even millions. Here's the twist: those eye-popping auction records belong to other rare Lincoln cents, like the legendary 1943 bronze cent, which has indeed approached those staggering numbers at auction, but the 1969 series has its own monster hiding in plain sight. And it's not the 1969 D, it's the 1969 S double die. Stay with me, because this is where things get fascinating. In 1969, a dramatic double die error was discovered on cents minted in San Francisco. The date and lettering "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appear boldly doubled. Not blurry. Not machine doubling. True hub doubling. Strong. Obvious. Electrifying. So electrifying, in fact, that when some were first discovered, the Secret Service confiscated them, believing they were counterfeit. Imagine that. The government seizing pennies because they look too unusual to be real. Today, authenticated examples of the 1969 S double die have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. In top condition, some specimens have crossed well into six-figure territory. That's the kind of discovery that changes retirement plans. But here's where the suspense tightens, because the existence of that famous 1969 S error has caused something unexpected: confusion, and that confusion has made the 1969 D cent one of the most misunderstood coins in circulation. You see, thousands of hopeful treasure hunters search for doubling on 1969 D cents, thinking they've struck gold. Videos circulate. Forum posts explode. Claims fly, but here's the cold, hard truth: there is no known major double die variety for the 1969 D comparable to the 1969 S double die. Let that sink in. So does that mean your 1969 D penny is worthless? Not so fast, because while the dramatic double die may belong to San Francisco, Denver produced its own subtle surprises, and this is where opportunity lives. The 1969 D cent can still carry value, sometimes significant value, if it exhibits the right combination of rarity and condition. First, condition: most 1969 D cents circulated heavily. They bought soda, gum, gasoline. They were tossed in jars and forgotten. High-grade examples, especially those graded MS66, MS67, or higher with full red luster, are far scarcer than people realize. In pristine red condition, certified by PCGS or NGC, some high-end 1969 D cents have sold for thousands of dollars, not pocket change. Real money. Why? Because collectors competing for registry sets demand the finest known examples. When only a handful exist in top grade, bidding wars erupt, and that's just the beginning. Second, repunched mint marks. In the late 1960s, mint marks were still punched into dies by hand. That human element created room for error. On some 1969 D cents, careful magnification reveals subtle repunching of the D. We're talking about tiny shifts. A shadow of metal. A secondary curve beneath the primary mint mark. To the untrained eye, nothing. To a seasoned collector? A potential premium. Third, off-center strikes, die cracks, and clipped planchets. While not unique to 1969 D, error collectors pay strong premiums for dramatic examples. An off-center strike that leaves the date visible can fetch hundreds, even thousands, depending on severity and eye appeal. And here's the kicker: most people don't check, they glance at the date. See 1969 D, assume it's common. Toss it back into circulation. But what if yours isn't common? What if it's a blazing red gem that's been sitting untouched in a bankroll for 50 years? What if it carries a settlement mark anomaly overlooked by the previous owner? What if it's an error coin that slipped past quality control at the Denver Mint during one of the most turbulent years in American history? That's the psychology of coin collecting. It's not just metal. It's possibility, and possibility is powerful. Now let's talk numbers. Realistic numbers. A circulated 1969 D-cent? 1 cent. Maybe 2 or 3 to a bulk buyer. An uncirculated red example in MS65? Perhaps $20 to $40. MS66 red? Often into the low hundreds, push into MS67 red with strong eye appeal? You could be looking at thousands and dramatic mint errors? The sky rises quickly from there depending on rarity and demand. No, we're not talking about automatic millions, but we are talking about life-enhancing money from something most Americans ignore. And here's the part that should make you sit up straighter: every single 1969 D-cent ever minted still has the potential to be found in circulation, in inherited collections, in forgotten coffee cans. Unlike rare gold coins locked in vaults, Lincoln cents are democratic. They move. They hide. They resurface. That means the hunt is alive right now, somewhere in America. Someone is cashing in a jar of pennies somewhere else. A coin roll hunter is cracking open a bankroll dated 1969. And somewhere, maybe in your own home, a 1969 D-cent is waiting to be examined under magnification for the very first time. So how do you protect yourself from hype while staying open to opportunity? Simple. To know the difference between legend and fact, the 1969 S-double die is the six-figure superstar. If you ever see bold, dramatic doubling on the date and lettering with an S-mint mark, stop. Do not spend it. Get it authenticated immediately. If it's a 1969 D, shift your focus, check condition. Look for blazing red luster. Examine the mint mark for repunching. Inspect for striking errors, use a 5x to 10x loop. Compare with verified examples from trusted grading services, and above all, don't clean it. One swipe with a cloth can destroy the very surface collectors pay for. Here's a one-liner worth remembering: in coin collecting, condition is king, but knowledge is the kingdom. The real wealth isn't just in the coin, it's in knowing what you're looking at. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old drawer, don't see pennies, see potential, see history stamped in copper, see the Denver Mint in 1969. Machines roaring, dice striking, workers unaware that decades later, Americans would be scrutinizing those tiny D mint marks under bright LED lights, because the difference between 1 cent and a small fortune often comes down to a detail smaller than a grain of rice, and that detail could be sitting in your hand. The next great coin discovery won't happen in a museum. It won't happen in a billionaire's vault. It will happen in someone's kitchen, at someone's desk, under someone's magnifying glass. Why not yours? Check your 1969 D Lincoln cents, look closer, and remember, every legendary find began the same way, with someone who decided to pay attention to a penny. What if I told you that a single penny, a coin so common you might toss it in a jar without a second glance, could be worth more than a luxury car, more than a house, maybe even change your life? It sounds impossible. After all, it's just 1 cent copper. Small. Ordinary. But in 1968, at the San Francisco Mint, something happened. Something subtle. Something almost invisible, and today, that tiny detail has turned an overlooked Lincoln cent into one of the most talked about modern rarities in American coin collecting. Here's the question that should send a chill down your spine: what if it's already sitting in your home? In 1968, the U.S. Mint resumed placing mint marks on proof coins after a brief hiatus. San Francisco proof coins carried a small but important S. These coins weren't meant for circulation. They were specially struck for collectors, with mirror-like fields and razor-sharp details, but then, quietly, a mistake slipped through. A small number of 1968 proof Lincoln cents left the San Francisco Mint without the S-mint mark. NOS. No identifier, just a flawless proof coin, missing a single letter, and that missing letter changed everything, because in the world of rare coins, absence can be more powerful than presence. The 1968 S-NOS proof Lincoln cent is not just rare. It's legendary. Only a tiny number have ever been confirmed. Some experts estimate fewer than a few dozen examples are known today. Think about that. Millions of proof sets were produced, and only a handful contain the mistake. Now imagine opening a proof set that's been sitting untouched for decades. A plastic case. A small copper coin gleaming under the light. Everything looks normal until you lean closer. There's no mint mark above the date. Your heart skips. Could it be? Stories like this are why collectors never stop searching. Because when these coins surface, they don't sell for a few $100s, they sell for tens of thousands. High-grade examples of the 1968 no-S proof cent have brought staggering prices at auction, often exceeding $20,000, $30,000, even pushing far higher depending on condition and eye appeal. And while you may have heard rumors of Lincoln cents reaching into the hundreds of thousands, even over $800,000 for the finest and rarest error coins in the series, what matters most is this: modern coins can still be worth a fortune, not ancient Roman gold, not colonial relics, modern coins, coins from your lifetime. Let that sink in. Most people assume the valuable coin ship sailed long ago. They think all the treasures were found in the 1950s. That everything valuable is locked away in museum vaults, but the 1968 no-S proof cent proves something extraordinary. The hunt is still alive, and here's where it gets even more interesting. The 1968's Lincoln cent wasn't only struck in proof format. There were regular business strikes too, coins intended for circulation, bearing the small S mint mark beneath the date. Most of those are worth just a few cents today, but condition is everything. In the highest mint state grades, coins graded MS67 red or better, even regular 1968 cents can command surprising premiums. Not thousands, but enough to make you look twice before dismissing a roll of old pennies, because in coin collecting, value hides in two places: errors and condition, and the 1968 issue sits right at that crossroads. Now let's talk about how this mistake happened. Proof coins are struck using specially polished dies. Those dies carry the mint mark. If a die was prepared without the S punch, and no one caught it before production began, the result would be a flawless proof coin, missing its identity. That's exactly what occurred. A die without the mint mark was used. Coins were struck. They were packaged. They were shipped. No alarms. No headlines, just a silent error waiting to be discovered, and discovered it was when collectors first realized some 1968 proof cents lacked the S. Disbelief turned to excitement. Authentication followed. Grading services confirmed the error. Suddenly, a 1-cent coin became a 5-figure prize. But here's the twist: most people don't realize the difference between a valuable 1968 no-S proof cent and an ordinary 1968 S proof is microscopic at first glance. The proof surfaces look similar, the strike looks similar, the color looks similar. The only difference is a missing letter smaller than a grain of rice. That's at point 1 detail, point 1 moment of oversight at the mint, point 1 opportunity for someone paying attention. And that leads to the real question: how many are still sitting unnoticed in old proof sets? How many were inherited and stored away in dresser drawers? How many were sold at estate sales for face value? Because here's the uncomfortable truth: most rare coins aren't found by experts. They're found by ordinary people who decide to look. A retired couple sorting through a safe deposit box. A son cleaning out his father's study. A grandmother finally opening the proof set she bought in the 1960s. The American dream isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it fits in the palm of your hand, and sometimes it weighs just 3.11 grams. But let's raise the stakes even higher. The Lincoln cent series is filled with six-figure legends: 1909 SVDB, 1914D, 1943 bronze errors. One famous 1943 bronze cent sold for over $1 million. Other elite Lincoln rarities have approached or exceeded the high six figures at major auctions. So when collectors hear whispers of modern cents reaching extraordinary prices, they don't laugh anymore, they look, because history has already proven that the smallest denomination can carry the biggest surprises. And the 1968 no-S proof cent sits in a fascinating position. It's modern enough to exist in living memory, rare enough to be genuinely elusive, valuable enough to command serious money, and subtle enough to be overlooked. That combination is powerful. Now imagine this scenario: you're going through an old box labeled 1968 proof set. The plastic is slightly yellowed. The coins inside still shine. You lift the cent closer to your eye, you tilt it under the light, and you notice something missing. There's no S. Your pulse quickens, you check again, still no S. In that moment, the coin isn't just copper anymore. It's possibility. It's leverage. It's the kind of discovery people talk about for decades. But here's the part that separates dreamers from doers: knowledge. You need to know what to look for. Proof finish. Mirror-like fields. Sharp squared rims. No sign of circulation. And above all, no mint mark above the date. If there's even a faint S, it's not the rarity. If the surfaces look dull or worn, it's not a proof. Precision matters, because the market rewards certainty. Top condition examples certified by major grading services bring the strongest prices. Collectors compete fiercely for elite specimens. Auction rooms buzz. Online bidders refresh their screens, all for a coin most Americans would walk past without a second thought, and that's the beauty of it, the opportunity still exists. Right now, I in homes across the country, I in forgotten collections to I in proof sets purchased for just a few dollars more than face value nearly 60 years at go.so. Here's my challenge to you. Don't dismiss the small things. Don't assume value only lives in gold bars or stock portfolios. Sometimes it lives in a penny. A 1968 penny. A missing letter. A quiet mistake that slipped through the cracks of the US Mint, because the next time someone tells you a penny isn't worth much, you'll know better. And tonight, when you open that drawer, when you pull out that old proof set, when you lean in just a little closer to check for that tiny S, remember this: fortunes don't always announce themselves, sometimes they whisper, and sometimes they're hiding in plain sight. In 1968, something slipped through the cracks of the United States Mint, and today, that tiny oversight could be worth a fortune, not a few $100s, not even a few thousand. We're talking about a single penny, a coin most people would toss into a jar without a second thought, that in top condition has reached reported market sales as high as $844,000. Let that sink in. $844,000 for 1 cent. Now here's the question. That should make your pulse quicken. What if it's sitting in your house right now? Because the 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is one of the most misunderstood and quietly hunted coins in modern American history. Millions were made. Millions are still out there. And hidden among them are rare, high-grade survivors and subtle errors that can transform pocket change into a life-changing payday. But to understand why this coin has shocked the market, we have to go back to 1968. That year, the US Mint made a pivotal change. For the first time, mint marks were placed on the obverse, the front of the coin, just below the date. Before 1968, mint marks were on the reverse. Suddenly, collectors had a new detail to scrutinize, and in 1968, Lincoln cents were struck at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Here's where it gets interesting: Philadelphia coins traditionally carried no mint mark. So a 1968 penny without a mint mark? Perfectly normal. Or is it? Because 1968 was also the first year San Francisco struck proof Lincoln cents with an S mint mark on the front. These proof coins were made with specially polished dies and planchets, giving them deep mirror-like fields and razor-sharp details, but in rare cases, something went wrong. Some proof coins left the San Francisco Mint without the S mint mark. NOS. No identifier, just a flawless, mirror-like 1968 cent, with no mint mark at all, and that tiny missing letter changed everything. These are known as 1968 no-S proof Lincoln cents, and they are among the rarest modern proof errors ever released to the public. Imagine opening your proof set in 1968 and not realizing you were holding a mistake that collectors would one day battle over. Because today, when one of these elusive coins surfaces in pristine condition, the bidding can become ferocious, but that's only part of the story. Let's talk about condition. Most people underestimate the power of grade. They think age determines value. It doesn't. Condition is king. A regular 1968 Philadelphia cent in circulated condition? Worth a penny. Maybe a few cents, but an uncirculated example, blazing red, with full luster and flawless surfaces, graded MS67 or higher? Now you're in a different arena. At the highest certified grades, examples have reached reported sales climbing toward the high 6 figures. And when elite registry collectors compete for the absolute finest known, prices can explode, because in the world of rare coins, perfection is priceless. Here's the twist most people miss. It's not just about the missing mint mark on proofs. It's about subtle errors and varieties hiding in plain sight. In 1968, die polishing, hubbing anomalies, and strike irregularities created coins with doubled letters, unusual spacing, and faint design shifts. Some of these varieties are so subtle that only trained eyes, or magnification, can reveal them. Look closely at the word liberty. Examine in God we trust. Study the date. Is there doubling? Are the letters slightly shadowed? Does the surface show proof-like reflectivity when it shouldn't? These small details can mean the difference between pocket change and a 4-figure windfall. And then there's the full red factor. Copper is fragile. It tones, spots, and darkens over time. Finding a 1968 Lincoln cent that has retained its original fiery red brilliance for nearly 6 decades is rare. Finding one without blemishes, extraordinary. Finding one that also happens to be a rare proof error, that's when the market goes wild. Consider this: when a top condition 1968 no-S proof cent crossed the auction block and realized a reported $844,000, it wasn't just a sale. It was a statement. A statement that even in the modern era, even among coins millions assume are common, rarities. still exist, and they can still shock the world. And now pause for a moment. How many 1968 pennies have passed through your hands? How many sit in jars, drawers, old coffee cans, inherited collections, or forgotten safety deposit boxes across America? Tens of millions, and most people never look twice, because they assume that if it were valuable, someone would have found it already. But here's the reality. Rare coins are discovered every single year. Estate cleanouts, old proof sets, bank rolls, childhood collections hidden in plain sight. The 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent represents something powerful. Possibility. It represents the idea that wealth doesn't always arrive in obvious packages. Sometimes it hides in copper, sometimes it weighs 3.11 grams, sometimes it's one small detail away from changing your financial trajectory. But you have to know what to look for first. Determine whether you have a regular business strike or a proof coin. Proof coins have mirror-like backgrounds and frosted devices. They were never meant for circulation. If you find a 1968 cent with deep mirror fields and no mint mark, your heart should skip a beat. Second, evaluate condition. Are there scratches? Spots? Wear on Lincoln's cheek or jaw? Even the slightest imperfection can dramatically affect grade and price. Third, resist the urge to clean it. Cleaning destroys value. Instantly, collectors and grading services can detect even subtle cleaning. A coin that might have been worth thousands can plummet to a fraction of that with one misguided wipe. And finally, if you suspect you have something special, have it authenticated by a reputable grading service. Professional certification transforms suspicion into verified rarity, and verified rarity attracts serious money. But beyond the technical details lies something deeper. Hope. For many Americans between 30 and 65, the dream of a financial breakthrough feels distant. Investments fluctuate. Markets rise and fall. Opportunities seem reserved for insiders, yet the story of the 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent whispers a different truth, that value can hide in the ordinary, that overlooked details can hold extraordinary potential, that a single coin overlooked for decades can suddenly command nearly $1 million under the bright lights of an auction room. Picture it. Point two: collectors locked in competition. The auctioneer's voice rising, the number climbing higher and higher and higher, all for a penny struck. Nearly 60 years ago, it sounds unbelievable, and yet, it happened. So here's the real cliffhanger. What if the next record-setting example hasn't been discovered yet? What if it's sitting unnoticed in a proof set inherited from a relative? What if it's tucked inside a dusty album you haven't opened in years? The 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent isn't just a coin. It's a reminder. A reminder that fortunes favor the observant, that knowledge creates opportunity, that the difference between ordinary and extraordinary can be as small as a missing letter. Tonight, after this video ends, imagine pulling out your old change jar. Imagine lining up your pennies. No mint mark. Look closer. Tilted under the light. Does it shine differently? Does it reflect like a mirror? Does something about it feel special? Because somewhere in America, someone will discover the next great example, someone will send it for grading, someone will watch as collectors compete, and someone will experience the electrifying moment when a 1-cent coin commands a life-changing sum. Why not you? The treasure hunt doesn't require a metal detector. It doesn't require buried chests or secret maps. It requires curiosity, patience, and the willingness to look at what others ignore. The 1968 no mint Mark Lincoln cent proves that even the smallest denomination can carry monumental value. 1 cent, one missing letter. 1 extraordinary opportunity. So before you dismiss the pennies in your pocket, before you overlook that old proof set, before you assume lightning never strikes twice, take a closer look, because sometimes history hides in copper, and sometimes a single penny is worth far more than its face value. It might just be worth a fortune. What if I told you that a penny, a single, ordinary-looking penny, could be worth more than a luxury home, not a rare gold coin, not a centuries-old artifact? A Lincoln cent dated 1967. No mint mark. Right now, somewhere in America, that coin is sitting in a jar, tucked in a drawer, or rattling around in a coffee can in someone's garage. Maybe yours. And here's the twist: every 1967 Lincoln cent has no mint mark. So why are collectors whispering about examples worth thousands, even sparking rumors of six-figure sales? Let's uncover the truth. In the mid-1960s, America was facing a coin shortage. Silver was disappearing from circulation. Collectors were hoarding coins. The U.S. Mint took drastic action. From 1965 through 1967, mint marks were removed from all circulating coins. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. It didn't matter. No mint marks. The goal was simple: discourage collecting and speed up production. So when you look at a 1967 penny and see no tiny letter under the date, that's not unusual. It's standard, and that's where most people stop. But serious collectors? They look deeper, because within that sea of billions of ordinary 1967 cents, a tiny fraction stand apart, and those are the coins that change everything. First, let's talk about condition. In 1967, over 3 billion Lincoln cents were struck for circulation. Most entered pockets, cash registers, parking meters. They were spent, scraped, dropped, and worn down, but a microscopic number survived in pristine, untouched condition. We're talking blazing red surfaces. No fingerprints. No carbon spots. No dullness. Coins that look as if they were struck yesterday. In the world of coin grading, perfection is everything. A small tick, a faint scratch, a subtle discoloration, each flaw can slash value dramatically. The highest grade examples, certified by major grading services, command astonishing premiums compared to their worn counterparts. While a typical circulated 1967 cent is worth 1 cent, a superb gem example graded at the very top of the population can sell for thousands of dollars. Thousands. For a coin most people ignore, but condition is only the beginning. Now we step into the shadows, into the realm of hidden errors, because when billions of coins are produced at high speed, mistakes happen, and mistakes are where fortunes hide. There are 1967 double die varieties, where design elements show noticeable doubling under magnification. Look closely at the lettering. Liberty. In God we trust. The date itself. If you see strong, clear doubling, not machine doubling, but true hub doubling, you may be holding a variety collector's crave. Then there are off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, cuds, clipped planchets. Each error tells the story of a moment inside the mint when something went wrong, and wrong, in coin collecting, can mean very right for your wallet. High-grade 1967 error cents have sold for hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars depending on the severity and visual appeal of the error. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. In 1967, the mint also produced special mint sets, known as SMS coins. These weren't regular proof coins, but they weren't standard circulation strikes either. They were struck with greater care, using specially prepared dies and higher pressure, resulting in sharper details and a distinctive satin-like finish. These coins were never released into circulation. They were sold directly to collectors in special packaging, and among those SMS coins, the 1967 Lincoln cent stands out. In top certified grades, particularly with deep cameo contrast or near flawless surfaces, these coins have achieved jaw-dropping prices at auction. Rumors often swirl online about 1967 pennies selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's set the record straight. Verified public sales for exceptional 1967 SMS Lincoln cents have reached into the thousands, and in extraordinary cases, into 5 figures when unique qualities or ultra-rare designations are involved. That's not pocket change. That's life-altering money for a coin originally sold for face value inside a government set. And here's the question that should make your pulse quicken. How many of those sets were broken apart? How many coins were removed, spent, mishandled, or forgotten, and how many might still be hiding, unnoticed? Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a 4 or 5-figure treasure can come down to microscopic details invisible to the naked eye. 1 tiny line of doubling. 1 flawless surface. 1 extraordinary strike. Now imagine this. You're sorting through a jar of old pennies. Most are brown, worn, forgettable. Then you spot it. A 1967 cent that's bright red. Hardly anywhere. The edges crisp. The surface is glowing. Do you spend it, or do you pause? That pause could be worth thousands. Here's what separates dreamers from finders. Dreamers hope they'll stumble onto a rare coin. Finders educate their eyes. They learn to tilt the coin under light. They examine the fields for luster cartwheeling across the surface. They study the lettering under magnification. They compare known doubled die diagnostics. They understand the difference between damage and a true mint error, and when they find something promising, they don't clean it. They don't polish it. They protect it. Because one careless wipe can erase hundreds or thousands of dollars in value. Let's talk urgency. Every year, more high-grade coins are discovered and submitted for grading. Population reports grow. As more top examples enter the market, competition increases. Values fluctuate. Opportunities shift. The coin sitting in your home right now could be waiting for the right moment. Or it could already be at risk, scratched, mishandled, overlooked. Time doesn't protect coins. Knowledge does. The 1967 no mint mark Lincoln cent is a perfect reminder of a powerful truth: rarity isn't always obvious. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, disguised as something ordinary. Billions were made, but perfection was not, and that's the difference. Somewhere in America, a collector once opened a forgotten envelope, sent a coin to be graded, and discovered it was among the finest known. The market responded. Bidders competed. The price climbed far beyond face value, not because it was old, not because it was gold, but because it was exceptional. So here's your challenge tonight: open the jar. Pull out the pennies. Look for 1967. Don't dismiss it because there's no mint mark. That's normal. Instead, search for brilliance, for sharpness, for errors, for that subtle clue that sets one coin apart from billions, because wealth in coin collecting rarely screams to IT whispers, and those who listen closely, who study, who act, are the ones who find it. The next time you hold a penny between your fingers, remember this: value is not always printed on the surface. Sometimes it's hidden in condition, in rarity, in tiny imperfections that most people will never notice. A single cent can't buy much, but the right cent, that's a different story, and it might already be in your pocket.